Alright, guys, it has been a while since I've done a sort of a watch list video, guys. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Trader Goof. So welcome to my channel, my live, pre-record live, whatever you want to call it. I'm basically a trader. I trade the U.S. stocks, SME markets as well for options, day trades, swing trades, as well as futures and forex, right? So anything said here, disclaimer, of course, I'm not a professional or anything like that. So anything here is just for educational purpose, my personal opinions, and these are not signals in any way to purchase any security or stock. So always, please always do your own due diligence on your behalf, guys. So with that being said, let's just jump into a couple things that I'm looking at going into this week for the markets, right? First things first is gonna be SPY. A couple things that I'm all eyeing out for SPY is gonna definitely be that we have been just in sort of a range bound based off of we can see based off the daily time frame, right? So sort of just ranging from this right around the 675.79 and this 697.84 area, right? So with the whole moves that we saw last week, sort of bearish more moves, right? So definitely looking to see if the market will sort of continue this bearish sentiment moves to the downside, right? We do have another busy earning weeks this week as well, so definitely key areas that I want to pay attention for as well, right? So first things first is, I would not be surprised if we do go and test down into that 675, 79 area here going into this week. That's definitely going to be an area that we would love to see if this is going to be broken to that downside. If we break below that 675, 79 area, I do believe we can definitely start to go test lower. And what we would be looking to test lower is definitely going to be down into those 669.22 areas, roughly that 679 area. But of course, first, if we do break below that 675, 79 area, we are going to be first looking to go ahead and test. If we can go ahead and test that 672.91 area, right? So we definitely want to take these areas step by step as we start to trend here lower, right? Depending on how can we have these big moves to the downside or upside, right? As we saw on Thursday, Thursday was a big heavy selling day off from us hitting a high of that 695.35 and hitting a low all the way down to 680.37, right? So that's almost a 15-point move to the downside there, right? So definitely something to key in on that going into this week and going into Monday, right? So going into Monday, one thing that I'm definitely going to be watching is, can we go ahead and break Friday's low, right? Friday's low is going to be that 677.52, right? Which is going to be that low of day for Friday. So definitely an area that we would love to see, watch for going into Monday, right? If that area starts to break below, what are we looking to go ahead and test down? We're going to definitely be looking to test if we would test those 675.79 area, right? Let's say we have some momentum to the upside. If we have momentum to the upside, what are we looking to break? We're definitely going to be looking to break above that 686.28 to go ahead and test some potential moves to the upside, right? So definitely worth watching to see if we can go ahead and test into, right? So if we do break above Friday's high of day of 687.28, roughly what I'm looking to go ahead and test up into is roughly going to be up into those 688s area, right around that 688.50 area, if given, right? So definitely want to be looking at those things, right? If we look at the hourly time frame, right, we can definitely see what we are looking for here, right? So definitely a couple things to just go ahead and look at, right? So go ahead and mark off Friday's high of day, right? As we can see here, Friday's high of day 686.28, right? That area is sort of aligning roughly right around with what? Right around where we saw sort of buyers attempting to go push back high but failed with the overall push that we saw to the downside, right? Remember, so Thursday was a big heavy selling day, right? Big momentum, clear trends to the downside, sellers in control, bears in control, buyers failed to reclaim and go much more higher, as you can see, right? Trading below all of our indicators and all this. So definitely wouldn't be surprised if going into Monday this week we start to still see that bearish moves to the downside, right? So definitely key areas that we want to be looking out for here going into Monday, guys, is definitely that Friday's high of day 686.28. for, to see if these bulls or buyers can sort of reclaim that area and start to push up higher and, roughly try to reclaim up into those 688, 689s area, which lays right around that 200 EMA, as we can see here, which that 200 EMA is also going to roughly lay with what our Wednesday's low update area of roughly right around that 689 area, as we can see here. So definitely things that we want to watch for. We always want to be prepared for both sides of direction, to the upside and to the downside, right? So if we do start to break below, Friday's low of day, that's 677.52, we definitely want to go ahead and test into what? That six, what was it on the daily time frame? So if we go back to the daily time frame, we're definitely looking to go ahead and test into um, February 5th low of day of that 675.79 area there, guys. So definitely a couple things to be watching out for there. Another thing that we're gonna go ahead and that I'm also looking at, right, is silver. Silver is something that I've been watching for a while. From us hitting this high of that 109, I knew that when we were to sell off, we were gonna have a big, heavy selling pressure to the downside. And this is something that I have told a lot of people. A lot of people were able to capitalize on that move to the downside, and as you can sort of see, we're still in that momentum to the downside. Do I believe that we still have some more downside to come? Yes. Reason being is because we've never seen silver push up high and making moves such as high just alone in the month of, what was it, January. We almost made from 70 to, from like 60 to 70, right, all the way up to 109, roughly 110, right? Think of it, almost a 40-point move in a single move just alone for silver, right? So you know it was just due for silver to have that big pullback, right? So definitely, do I believe that we still have more downside? I do believe we still have more downside to come here. So definitely things to be watching out for here this week as well, right? As we look at the daily time frame, I do have some couple key areas here marked off already. Definitely watching to see if silver can break below the 65.51 area, right? So that's going to be the key area to watch out going into this week. Can we break below that 65, 50, 51 area, whatever you would like to say, to go test much more lower, as we can sort of see and look to the far left, we can see how that area is roughly respected, right? So if we break below that, don't be surprised if we start to push a little bit much more lower, and start to see sort of silver just start to recorrect itself, So definitely things to be on the lookout for there, guys. So um so if we go into the hourly time frame here now, even on the hourly time frame, we can sort of see, go ahead, zoom out here, we can sort of see that we're still sort of in a downtrend, right? So based off from what, February 4th all the way up until the present day as right now, still trending to the downside. We've had moves to the downside. We've recovered some slight moves, but overall still with that overall down momentum. You see from us hitting that high of roughly that daily 109 area, momentum has just been to the downside. We can see once we sort of broke back below that 200 MA, you can see as well, we are just trading and respecting below that 200 MA. So overall sentiment is bearish. The bears are still in control. Sellers are still in control for the time being. So it can be very tough to see if these bull buyers can sort of start to, reclaim momentum. Overall, is a great position to sort of, try to slowly start to purchase for long term, um, but in the time being, I wouldn't be going too crazy purchasing silver or calls, anything like that, just for the time being, you really want to be cautious because markets just seem to be correcting themselves, as we can see, right? So not just in silver, but we can also see it in SPY and a couple other names, big tech names, big cap names. They're sort of just getting that correction, right? So definitely trade with cautious and definitely want to take things slow and day by day, guys. So definitely a couple things to overly watch out for, So definitely watching out for that. Going into Monday this week, definitely watching based off Friday's highs and lows, right? So Friday's low is going to be that 688, 86. We break below that, go ahead and see, most likely go test into previous day's low of day, right? So definitely worth watching there to go test down below. And if we do break above that Friday's high of day, roughly that 71.32 area that I'm looking to go ahead and see if we can break above, it's going to be roughly that 72.50 area, which we can see that white line roughly laying right with my February 10th low of day as well, that 72.46 area. Definitely an area that we want to see if bulls can reclaim back above that to sort of start to reclaim from this drop from Thursday as well. You see, so if we can get back above that 72.46 area, definitely would like to see those buyers come in with full force and start to reclaim back to that upside and see if we can go ahead and test back up into those 75, right? So definitely key areas to watch out for there. Those are going to be those key areas for there that I'm looking at for that. Another one that I'm sort of just looking at was, I believe it was coin. So another one that I'm looking at is coin for going into this week. Go ahead and pull that up here. So if we look at here for coin, right? So based off the day time frame, we did have earnings on the 12th, right? So definitely worth watching here. If we were to zoom out, we can see how right around these 142.58 areas sort of just being respect, right? Despite on last week us making a low because of Thursday's sort of set off, markets really sold off that day, right? So despite us making a low below that 142 area and Thursday's low of 139.36, we can see how Friday sort of we traded back above that 142 area and now sort of just trading above it, right? So we saw bulls closed out green. They were able to capitalize on Friday, so definitely worth watching here going forward, guys. So as we can see that, definitely worth watching. Going to the hourly time frame. So we go into the hourly time frame, we can sort of see here as well, right? This is looking like a favorable setup going into Monday, going into this week, right? We can see how Friday's high of day of 167.65. Look where it sort of aligns us with as well. Sort of aligning with February 10th as well, 167.92, right? So roughly looking to see if these buyers bulls can break above that 168 area, right? If we can break above that 168 area, definitely looking to most likely get into or play that upside, right? Playing that upside to be able to play commons or even shares, just playing up into roughly those 170 area, right? Nothing too crazy, just because of the fact that we can clearly see based off the hourly time frame that key area is where we're seeing some slight resistance in the past. You see, from also multiple days where we're seeing it, right? So definitely we're looking to see if that 168 can break above to go ahead and test up into those 170s area, 170 46 area, as we can see there based off my line, which almost aligns with that 200 EMA on that hourly time frame as well here, right? So, and if the bulls are just so strong, and buyers are just so strong, and we get above that 200 EMA, we might just just go ahead and push up higher, maybe even up into those 178s, 180s if given, right? So definitely worth watching to see if these bulls can capitalize going into this week here, guys. So definitely a couple things to watch out for here overall for this week, guys. So those are going to be sort of my favorite subs going into this week for the time being, guys. So as I always mention, all this saying was just educational purpose, my personal opinions, and what I'm looking at going into this week. So if you like this, please subscribe, like, share, and more videos to come out. Place comments, what you would like to see more of. I'm all these type of good things, guys. So thank you guys for joining me and subscribing to my channel, guys. Thank you again.